Madam Chairman, we're live.
Welcome to our afternoon session of July 16th. Up next is the discussion on some amendments and implementation for change in our water quality standards. Director Herrick.
So this is just a preliminary discussion about what you're going to want to see for water quality improvements in our ordinance amendments and in the implementation by whatever department. Because before we actually write it, I'm going to need to know what you want me to write it to. So, and this is, all inspired by our impact area changes, throughout Valley County. And, where are we lacking in water quality standards? What, do we need to increase? So, we keep hearing that around Payette Lake, there's like a 50-foot setback. The rest of Valley County is 30 feet. On some lots around Lake Cascade, you're not going to be able to get a 50-foot setback because that's going to consume half the lot. And then you'd end up with a very small something.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend, though, that those be waivers, that they would have to apply for a waiver? And we look at and that way we're looking at individual situations. And so if we put 50 feet on all water bodies, or at least the lakes, I'm trying to think in my mind, streams, rivers. I think the river should be a 50-foot setback too.
Well, streams like,
Streams,
they
the streams
carry
go
water
into
to-
the lake.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would think it would be next to all water bodies. But I think if they need to be closer than that, then I think we should be looking at them individually
Okay.
and doing a waiver on those.
So,
So on your,
That'd be a variance,
A
right?
variance, yeah, thank you.
yeah, so like on rivers, don't you have a floodplain distance anyhow with rivers?
you just can't build in the floodplain.
So that just pushes you back anyhow,
That pushes you back.
no matter what.
Let me clarify. So you can't build in the floodplain in the county, but you can within the city?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because even though you're building in a floodplain in the city, you're building to a floodplain standard. So you're bringing the building, I think
The base
Cascades is
elevation.
2 feet above the base flood elevation. So you have a freeboard in there.
Hmm.
So you're elevating the building or filling to elevate the building. Whereas we've chosen not to do that in the county because then you might be changing the meander of the river and things like that. So in these riverines, it's sometimes best to just keep them out.
Right.
Yeah, and I was very familiar with building in the floodplain in the valley, but I kind of like it up here because it does protect and preserve a lot more open space around those river corridors too. And
Open
you're
space,
right,
water
it
quality.
may set it back, the 50 feet, but I think that needs to be looked at.
Well, it's 50, what we would write is like a 50-foot from the high water line,
Mm-hmm.
which sometimes is the base flood elevation.
Yep.
So it all depends. So you are feeling pretty comfortable about me writing it to the 50-foot for any water body. Right now it's 30 feet from any water body, including lakes, creeks, irrigation ditches, anything like that. Things that have the ability to rise and saturate or become contaminated. Because even ditches, you don't want them to be contaminated before they go down into agricultural fields. So 50 feet, we're good with that.
And with that, in talking about like around Cascade Lake, most of those would be rebuilds, correct? There's not that many empty lots around the lake.
True.
CR has quite a few empty lots over there, don't they?
Yeah, but those aren't around a lake. Those are on the other side of West Mountain Road up the mountain.
I know, but there's water.
There's
bodies
some
that
creeks
flow
going through there.
Yeah.
So we would probably, we would do something similar to what we did with the floodplain one, which was you have to build to this standard or you can't build in it. If you're in a subdivision that was platted prior to adoption of that ordinance. So if we did implement the 50-foot, there would be maybe a flow chart. If you're in a subdivision platted prior to that, you have to build to 30 feet or obtain a variance, something. We would build something like that into it.
Now we're doing a big house on the lake, west side of the lake, and he already built one big house there. Well, the old house was, oh my goodness, it was from here to the bench right there from the water. You can stand on the deck and almost look right down the water. So the new house tore the old house down, and you're looking at it 50 feet. Doesn't seem like that far. It really doesn't.
Right. And then what type of vegetation are you gonna want in that setback area? A lot of people, I mean, I just pulled 3 that I was sent pictures that have rocked from their house to the lake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is just like a straight shot for the water.
But that also deters any use of fertilizers or chemicals.
Right, so there's the balance. It deters use of fertilizers, but it also doesn't provide any BMPs for stormwater management from the sides or the roof and things like that.
I would most definitely, I would like to see some type of a shore environment, you know, with some natural landscaping or natural.
I know this place, they did a terraced down to the water.
Yeah.
And that worked pretty good. And they had grass right there, and then they terraced down another wall. And
But the grass they tend to fertilize. And we kind of want to keep the fertilizers away from the lake because that has.
oh yeah, I agree.
Data shows that homeowners consistently over fertilize.
Of course they do.
And a lot of the people around the lake are hiring landscaping companies, and then you have very little control. And really nobody to hold accountable to it. So I think that it should be natural shrubs. But the problem is once you disturb the soil, you're going to get knapweed, you're going to get weeds there and not the natural stuff. So how do we write that to be that it's not natural anymore?
And like grass would be good, especially if they paved their driveway. Because the grass provides a barrier between a driveway that leaks
Right.
oil and the lake.
Right.
Yeah.
These are the challenges of type of decisions.
That's why we're talking, because I'm not sure. I mean, we could write something where, you know, you have to leave it natural except for a pathway to there, you know, or
Natural plantings.
Yeah,
You know,
natural planting, prohibition of certain types of vegetation, more natural grasses that don't require fertilizers,
yes.
that kind of thing. So,
I think we need to specifically address no fertilizers.
so,
You know, and if
There's
it's-
no enforcement to that.
we will be.
There's no. I was watching a show and they were putting in a law and they said, well, this is all great to say this, but if there's no enforcement, you're just writing words on a paper.
Oh, some of it's public education. You know, you can write the law, you can let them know. And then that's why we have code enforcement people that go back and check it.
But like, I love having grass. You can go and walk in it, and if you have kids,
Mine's all natural. I don't want to mow the grass anymore at my age.
So maybe grass, you know, from 50 foot back.
I think so.
Be a big conversation, so maybe.
Maybe grass from, you know, 50 feet back. What we probably should do is I should talk to a landscape architect and see what they think would be best for water quality.
What does, I mean, here's a, I know the city of McCall has that 50-foot setback for them. Do they have a requirement for environmental stuff as far as grasses and things in that 50-foot? Do we know what their recommendations are? Just asking a question.
I haven't delved into their ordinance yet, and I've been asking. But
They haven't
we'll
supplied
find
that
out.
yet.
I
So
did
they have
pull,
a 50-foot environment or environmental area. So it's only a 50-foot setback, but they have 150-foot natural plantings or something.
Yeah, something like that, 150 foot back. So I didn't quite, I
right,
think
so
it has to do with what flows into the lake, you know.
we'll figure that out. I did attach to the sheet I gave you the maintenance during construction list that they have and that they apply. You know, controlling dust. They have erosion and sedimentation control plans. I mean, do you think that anyone within, you know, 100 feet of these water bodies or within 150 should have a stormwater management plan approved by an engineer or created by an engineer and approved by the Valley County engineer? I mean,
I would say yes. I mean, that's.
all of those.
I mean,
Are-
anything around.
That might
08.
require hiring another engineer to review those.
Or we could,
As well as increased code enforcement, because you would have to, your code enforcement would have to be trained. in
Make
the
sure they
steps.
implemented it correctly, or the person that reviewed the plan would have to go out and inspect and make sure they implemented it correctly.
there's also gonna be a fee for that permit to help offset those costs.
But so do you just want those around the lakes, or, I mean, every creek, every ditch?
I don't think every creek and every ditch. I would say the lakes.
The lakes.
I don't know. Everything feeds into the lake though, so if you can prohibit sediment upstream, that ultimately helps the lake. Sometimes I think sediment's worse than fertilizers.
But don't builders have to, now you're talking about sediment from building or sediment,
Runoff, dust.
From building.
you know, in building, I know they have to put their, what is that stuff called?
EMPs,
Yeah.
well, they're supposed to
They're
use
default
silt
to it.
fences and straw
Fences
walls.
and they, you know, that straw bales or whatever those things are around it, and to keep them going in for sediment that way. I know they have to do all that. That's,
What was the recommendation given by Valley Soil and Water on that? Did they specifically address that?
I don't know.
Okay. That might be something that we ask them.
I'm
You know,
sure.
and then I would hope that you would weigh the cost of that against, I mean, because we can get so excessive that it's almost impossible to build.
We don't want to do that.
My response to that is if you're on a waterway, you've got the money to pay for this. You know, locals rarely, if ever, are gonna be building on a lake or river or, you know, maybe on a stream.
Well, locals could build on those.
The streams, that's what well, I don't see a local building on a lake or a river. Those properties are extremely expensive.
So Valley Soil Water would like a 300-foot shore zone with a 25-foot vegetation buffer to reduce erosion and enhance habitat protection. A 25-foot vegetation buffer zone retained at the waterfront. Building setback line from high water at 50 feet. Proof of stormwater certification training provided by the individual applying for the building permit.
So the 300 feet was based upon our 300 feet that we have currently in our ordinance. So I'll talk to Leonard and see if that's something that he thinks, I mean, 300 feet is a long way.
Oh, yeah.
What's in our ordinance at 300 feet?
Because anybody within 300 feet of a floodplain has to build 2 feet above that base flood elevation.
That's a football.
Ours is really talking about the floodplain.
It's different than this.
So in the county, we don't allow building in floodplain, period.
I think 300 is excessive. 150 seems more reasonable.
I agree.
And I'm pretty sure that's where he got that number, because, I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time. I said, well, I'd like to keep the numbers straight, so I don't have to play a game about, you know, which, I mean, we need to keep those numbers. Maybe we change our 300-foot area within the, you know, distance from the floodplain now to the 150.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's usually some steep topography. We don't have those flat plains. So we can take a look at that. So go back to setbacks from high water lines. This one, I'm kind of hesitant. And that's adjacent to wetlands. Because right now, Valley County doesn't have any codes or ordinances on wetlands. If we required people to be set back a certain distance from a wetland, we're gonna have to have a wetland delineation done on every property. Now you're getting, I mean, now you're taking time out in order to hire someone to do that wetland delineation.
Doesn't the Corps do that anyhow?
No, well, it's very no, Neil, they don't. If you can get a hold of them.
But like Ardura is certified to do that.
Right.
There are several companies within Idaho that can do it.
Sure. But on every building site?
Well, these are just future building sites. The current ones are, right, essentially grandfathered in.
No, if these are current buildings, I mean, future buildings.
So on an existing subdivision that doesn't have a building permit yet, they would have to do this.
Well, subdivisions do it.
So let's talk
Talk
about,
about an individual building site.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of wetlands in this county, huge, but they're not active water to them. They're just
Right.
wetlands.
Yeah, well, are they waters of the US? I mean, there's different determinations. Waters of the US are connected to water bodies.
Right. The wetland is just a wet area out there with cattails in it.
It has
Lots of wetland.
vegetation, it has certain types of soils and certain types
Waters
of
and
moisture. There's three different
grasses
things
and-
that'll determine that.
so when we're talking about the setback on that, Central District Health has some control over that because it would be sewer and water. So, or the septic and the water. So the septic has to be set back so far from an open, even wetlands. That's,
I didn't know that.
they do. Anything that's full-time, if they can prove a year-round water source, you have to be so many feet away from it.
Oh, yes,
So
from a
that's-
water source, yes,
Yeah, well.
which is different than a wetland.
If it's got water on it year-round, it's a open water source. We should ask Central District Health that question.
Mhm.
You know, how do you look at wetlands? Because that's gonna drive a house back from it anyway. Because you don't want your septic so far away from where your house is.
Well, you couldn't have a drain field near a
Right.
wetland, right?
Right.
You-
So that's
I mean,
gonna
you
have
look
to
at-
drive it.
You look at all the ponds that ranchers have. I mean, I had a pond in my place, and it was like, no water fed into it, no water went out of it. It's just groundwater that fed the thing.
And then you got cattails around it.
Yeah, we got cattails around it.
But you had to be sensitive about where you placed your septic with that.
Oh yeah, we were upstream from that. But
So that would have talked to the setback of the house. You're gonna put your house closer to wherever your septic is.
but
Your drain
that's not for us to consider. That's for Central District Health to
I
consider.
think what you're saying is maybe we could be consistent with Central District Health.
Right.
Right, because we've always just left it up to the Army Corps of Engineers because they have jurisdiction over wetlands.
And that's what I was talking about. The Corps would be the ones you.
But they don't do anything.
They do.
One of those,
They do. They don't do the delineation.
but they don't ever comment, they don't. They oversee wetlands, but they're not active in this process.
I think that they are active in building permits because if someone's going to disturb an acre, I believe it is, then they need the 404 permit. And yes, there's a joint application between IDWR and the Corps of Engineers. So there
That's
is
if
permitting they get through the Corps of Engineers. We just haven't been implementing the Corps standards. We let the Corps take care of it.
Mm-hmm. I follow what you're saying.
I mean,
Why don't we implement the core standards?
because they're their standards.
But they're our federal partner. I mean, we could replicate that in our ordinance. I don't know what those standards are. I don't wanna say
Then-
that right here,
And
but
you know, then we're gonna probably need more staff to do that, so. If we're gonna start doing the wetlands, okay?
Well, we don't want to put more.
I think that's a question. I'm not saying that we wanna do that. I think there needs to be more research on that one, cause I don't think we have clarity enough to say one way or another right now.
I mean, I've visualized this, that we could, right now, we have a fairly simple, effective process. You know, they go into the building department, they have to get their Central District Health, you know, their drivers, their FAA and all this stuff. And then we're going to put on it a wetland delineation and, I mean, are they gonna have to get something from the Corps that says there's no wetlands? Well, they could wait years on that.
But there are companies that can do it for the core, like Ardura, right?
I know of 2 people up here that do it. Yes, and Ardor, you would have to pay them travel, and this is for each building permit because we can't differentiate, you know, between, you know, a 1,000 square foot house and a 10,000 square foot house. And so those people will be paying an engineer to travel to Cascade to do a wetland delineation and then travel time back. So it probably cost a couple thousand, I would think.
Yeah. See, when we built Elk Creek Church, the architect had that done. There's no wetlands back there because the type of grasses and stuff that were that back side of it, we couldn't do anything, a parking area or anything in that one corner of the lot because of that.
But how much did that cost you 20 years ago to have that done?
Good question. I have no idea. But yeah, they had it staked out, even though there's never been any water there ever.
So, I mean,
I think that I would hesitate to say that it's on every building permit. Are there certain water areas that are more sensitive? And what we're trying to do at the end of the day is protect the lakes, the river, and creeks, those open water bodies. So I think if a wetlands drains into something like that, it's more sensitive and should be declared a higher sensitivity area than if I'm just out in the middle of a field somewhere and there happens to be a low spot and it's got a ditch on it or a pond on it.
Which we know by our GIS maps, right? Because the wetlands are.
you want to know that. We have
So when you click on
Army
our
Corps of
website,
Engineer
it's-
overlay that isn't accurate. It's not accurate. Because they haven't gone to each piece of property and delineated it this year.
I think we leave the wetlands alone like they are and let the building
Well, there's
process work like it has been.
places like Tamarack, they do the stormwater pollution prevention plans because they were a planned unit development and part of their EPA DEQ approvals required them to do SWIP plans. And so they have to do that even though they don't meet that acre threshold. So anybody building up there should have their SWIP plan.
Mhm.
You know, those boxes out there with the plans inside. The Valley County engineer checks for, on subdivisions and conditional use permits to see if they've got their drainage under control to a certain extent. And Parametrics actually did a letter, which you can find on the Valley County website, that describes everything they do. And then we meet the minimum requirements of the stormwater best management practices for Idaho cities with an addendum that enhances additional things besides what the state of Idaho does. So we've enhanced ours above and beyond that.
Could you send that one to us?
It's on the website. I can send it to you though.
If you would, that'd be great. So we
That.
still have a question on wetlands. I think that's something we need to drill down farther on.
I know McCall, I believe they have to be a certain distance, but they have an engineer that's there that can go out and look. And all this time, all this stuff adds time and staff time, length of time where they have to apply for a building permit, and then cost.
Yeah, I don't want
It's still faster than the app,
It might not be anymore if we start adding a whole bunch of stuff on here.
well, that's it. And
So that's what you want to weigh out is, do you still want to be efficient in our permitting process,
absolutely.
or
I want us to stay efficient and let's still have the quality.
Okay.
You know,
it's
but
gonna be a balance? That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
get at.
I don't want to throw more red tape on top of stuff that's not necessary because we got a lot of checks and balances already. You know, the 50-foot setback, I don't have a problem with that. And like you guys were talking, the variance, around Cascade Lake, if we need a variance, we can always cross that bridge when we get there. But wetlands, I think those people, they check the wetlands anyhow if they're going to be building in an area where it's got wetlands. If it's an open tributary, that's a whole different animal.
I think there should be maybe some standard to wetlands, not just the Army Corps oversees it. I always think that the control of these things should be as local as possible. would rather the county do it than the Army Corps do
Then
it.
we have to have the qualified people to do it.
Right.
So we'll have to hire the qualified people
Just
to
supporting,
determine the wetlands and things like that.
supporting the local economy if it's a local employee.
Parametrics doesn't do anything like that with wetlands,
So sure,
if you ask them.
well, they could do a wetland delineation.
It's just getting expensive. I mean, that's where we have to balance is the cost of local housing is so expensive anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're gonna put, continue to add costs to any housing that's up
And
there.
length of time and getting someone here, I mean, it could take weeks, I don't know.
Just like Dan was talking, that the stretch on East Lake Fork, they've got to buy a bank, wetlands bank. That's what they call it. They're going to push over and make that wetland smaller. He's got to buy that however much that is.
I don't even know if Dan's qualified to delineate a wetland.
He doesn't have time to do it anyway, so
I doubt it. I
that
don't
would be an
know.
option, but I think we just need more conversation on the wetlands.
I just wanted to get this started, so the whole point is, what are you thinking? That's my bottom line here. So start thinking about these things, talking to your constituents and doing all of that stuff. Other places that we can look is our lot coverages. Right now, we're at like 35%. But that's only for things that need building permits, from an aerial. Do you want to include hardened surfaces like driveways and that type of thing, which, causes runoff? So think about that. I mean, all we would have to do is change the definition of lot coverage. Okay, I mean, that's one of those atypical things. I think we're gonna prohibit certain types of vegetation, the ones, that are, harmful to animals. And just go ahead and insert those in the ordinance, so it's something that we can,
Like use,
Yes, they'll use-
Knapweed, no knapweed.
and then we're gonna have,
it's already in an ordinance. It's already in state law, but.
the knapweed,
follows
yeah.
that one.
They're signing their life away there. And then who's going to implement all this stuff? I mean, are we gonna require the site grading and stormwater management plans for each building? Are we gonna continue to do it just for the subdivisions and conditional use permits? And if so, is it going to be the building department that does it? Will it be planning and zoning that does it? Will it be the engineering department that does it? So how does that best work? And then while you're thinking about that, think about the wildfire mitigation stuff we want to do.
Lots of moving parts.
The more you put on this, the more people you're gonna have to have.
Well, I think we talked to other counties. Other counties are doing this work right now and find out what their protocol is and what their process is. So I think we can talk to other counties and see what works and, what they would do differently. And
Yeah. Don't like reinventing the
a
wheel.
lot of our lot coverage, I'm sitting here just thinking to myself, we have a 1 acre minimum. We're not a city that has,
We have a
You
lot
know,
of
really-
smaller lots though.
We have what?
Smaller lots. If you're on
the
sewer.
really old ones.
And if you're on
Okay.
sewer,
Oh, right.
has nothing to do with septic, it's the lot coverage.
And I forgot about the sewer. I was thinking density in the cities. Okay.
And then if you look through that, I mean, McCall's maintenance during construction list, that's kind of interesting, and kind of look through what you think we should require, especially when you go into more denser urban type of areas. They've got some interesting things in here that might be good to apply out in the county. Because I've seen a lot of dirty pavement.
Yes. As have I.
Yes. Okay. This was just to get us thinking about what we're actually going to do.
I'm gonna start putting half an hour on the agendas on some meetings so that we can continue this conversation and so we can give us time in between, to do some research work and start solidifying some of the things that we want to discuss.
Well, I
That would be
anticipate
my-
doing some work on it. But
Tell Lori to ask Northwest, whatever it is,
Ask what?
the planning conference that she's going to.
Well, this isn't new stuff. I mean, a lot of urban areas require certain things.
Mhm.
But rural areas tend to have less staff or so. And, things that are far reaching, then you don't require someone to come out from Boise every time. Oh, and then you guys, what is your appetite for requiring people to get certified in BMP implementation?
So is that the contractor class?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that we should have them take it. It's an online class. It's not that hard to do.
So, and is that just in certain areas?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be countywide? Shouldn't it be countywide?
Well, I think it's, if you are next to a water body, that's when it's required, with the city.
So, and then you envision that someone comes into the building department, because they have, 100 different contractors coming in. Submits a building permit, and then
have your
you,
certification sheet.
they have to show a certification.
Sure.
I mean, but you
And
can
we
have,
can track those.
even not around water, I mean, dust is a huge environmental pollutant, so why wouldn't we just keep it consistent and make them all do it?
Well, I don't know that it's
I don't know what's in the
dust, it's more
class.
BMPs and stormwater management.
I don't know what's covered in that class. So.
Yeah, I think. Well, you said your son just took it, so.
I did a few years
That's-
ago.
Maybe I'll go on and take it. I took it years ago, when McCall put one on. We all went up and took it. But I don't think it had anything to do with dust. I don't recall. It's been a long time.
Okay,
Two buildings.
we've started the
officials ago.
conversation.
Okay,
All right, up next is our workshop to discuss contracting of indigenous services.
So if you find one of those BMP classes, would you send it on to us so we can take it too? Just curious.
I don't know how hard I'm gonna search, but I think it's what was it, City of Boise or Ada County? did it?
I can't remember. I didn't ask Jake that much. I just said, "Did you learn from it?" He said, "Yeah, if I didn't know anything about, building, that he probably would have learned some stuff, but he said I also knew a lot about it, so."
Oh, then I wanted to say, well, one of the other things was on the pond permits and requiring water rights and things. I was basically told by DWR to mind my own business. They issue those. They don't want us doing what they do, kind of. That's their jurisdiction.
Well, we need to be sensitive to that. I mean, that's,
We'll have to be careful how we proceed and work closely with those agencies.
well, and just find out what they're doing, and if we need something that's a little more enhanced for us, then we need to do it differently, but we count on them for what their expertise is and look at something else too,
That's
so.
kind of what our floodplain is. It's, I need approval from IDWR, Corps of Engineers, and BOR, whomever. And then I can add some enhancements on top of that. So,
All right. I am looking for the information that we got. Arnie, are you the one that sent us the stuff on the indigent? Will you come talk to us?
I can,
Will you?
yeah, I can email it again if you'd
Okay,
like.
that'd be great.
Commissioners.
If you have it in front of you, I'm looking for it and I'm not seeing
Okay.
it.
I provided you an attorney-client privilege memo on the subject.
I thought, but it's not coming up, so I don't know what I did with it.
I found your email, but I can't find the attachment.
What are we looking for?
The letter on indigent services contracting.
I think I have it. Do you want me to give it?
All right. Tracy, I just emailed them, so they have everything.
Oh, okay.
No worries. Yeah, good.
Do you want me to?
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, come.
Come on up.
Commissioners, I've also asked Deputy Clerk Candace Limbaugh to participate, as she currently handles our indigent program for Valley County. And I guess just, if you don't mind, if I can begin the conversation.
Please do.
The reason that this was kind of brought to everyone's attention, because we feel, the clerk's office feels that there's multiple agencies providing indigent services in Valley County. We have the church group that I think is still providing indigent services, as well as the county is providing applications for individuals if there is a need. I don't know, though, if we are all communicating to determine if potentially an individual who's seeking services from the church organization is also seeking services from Valley County. And it's, quite honestly, we don't want them to take advantage of the church, again, and no disrespect to those people that utilize the services, but we just want to make sure that the services that are provided aren't being taken advantage of. Valley County currently no longer has the ability to levy property tax dollars for indigent services. However, we do have a balance of approximately $231,000 that the county can provide to individuals requesting services. The arrangement currently, as the commissioners are aware, is that they make an application through our office. That's processed by Candace, submitted to the commissioners for consideration under an executive session. And then what the county does is we require repayment. There has been some concerns, is that a responsibility of county government to be doing that? So we requested, the commissioners requested that legal counsel determine if the county can in fact contract that out with a nonprofit organization to provide indigent services to Valley County. That opinion has been provided to the commissioners for consideration. We also have Ignite Idaho, who provided a business plan to potentially provide indigent services to individuals in Valley County, utilizing the dollars that Valley County has. Commissioners, I apologize, but I just wanted to provide a general overview of why we're here now having this workshop. Is it something, I guess the question is this something that the commissioners want to continue to pursue? Or I guess just to open it up for conversation at this point in time.
I guess when you mentioned the church group, they used to have the Afton, it was called. Is that defunct? Is it still operating? Does anybody know?
I believe in some capacity. I mean, the churches are still helping people.
Right.
I know Elk Creek has the benevolence fund, and
Any of them do have one out that's fun.
I think that Mountain Life might still be doing a part of the Afton.
Mhm. Yeah, I haven't heard. I know that it was set up between a lot of the churches back when Larry Terhurst was still around, and he helped get that set up. But I didn't know if it was still functioning
We
or not.
all collaborate, so I know that each church has had funding. I'm just not sure what they call it. But in the past, I know the sheriffs and police used that, and then they transitioned it to the churches, so. But I think the biggest concern that we've seen is people are utilizing, they're calling each church, each organization, and they're getting something from everybody. And then it's depleting it before the middle of the year, and then the people that absolutely need it aren't getting it.
See, and that's what Afton was doing. It would send everybody to a central spot, and so they couldn't go around to every single church and beg. And it worked when it worked, and when it doesn't, it doesn't.
And I don't believe it's going in that capacity anymore that I've ever seen.
And
We just want a process by everyone in need has the opportunity. And I think it's, I think it helps when they have one contact point. I think when the community has one contact point, it's less confusing. I mean, I sent, somebody to Tracy yesterday, and I knew exactly who to contact because I knew that she had the resources, and if she couldn't do it, she had the contacts to push it out. And I think that's really helpful. I think when we say we'll go to Elk Creek, well, we don't know who at Elk Creek to go and talk to, or, you know, at Mountain Life or whatever. But I'm sitting here, I'm reading our attorney's information, and there are some key questions that I think we have to answer as a county on whether we have the ability to provide these funds. These are taxpayer dollars, so it's something that we have to account for very closely. And Arnie, I don't know if you want to come up to the table or not. You can certainly answer questions if we have them from there, but 4 things. Is this a one-time grant of the entire budget, or if the amount will be broken up and dispensed over time? The ability to audit funds spent by the contractor, that's gonna be a big one. Will the county need to pay the contractor on an annual basis after the current budget is exhausted? And should the county solicit proposals from other potential contractors? So those are the questions we have in front of us right now. I think that there will still be expenses that the county has to meet, because we always have cremations and those types of things where there are just some services that we have to meet. We are no longer receiving taxpayer funds, so we're not taxing the general public. So I think we would have to reserve some of those funds for future. The ability to audit funds. So that's the one I think that, Kirk Miller, if you will help me with this, when Zweigert comes in and audits our accounts, how would we actually provide a listing of how Ignite is expending these funds? I mean, if she gives us a report, is that good enough?
We would rely on them for that documentation, if they just provided indigent service for rental assistance. So even if it's a public records request, would be my understanding that county would be responsible to provide that information to an individual. If there was a public records request that said, how were these funds expended by the company that we contracted with to provide indigent services? That company would have to provide that information to Valley County. Valley County would have to make sure that there was no personal information, redact information, but we would have to have the ability to provide that to anyone that asks for that information during a public records request, is my understanding.
So this is my
If
concern.
that's the question that you had, sorry.
I always end up with my wheels turning all the time on the worst possible scenario. So we give Tracy, $100,000.
Yep.
She's expended 75,000 of it, and God forbid you go out of business or something happens to you personally. And all of a sudden, we don't have those records and we don't have that information. And so I think that we would have to do something about some kind of a quarterly reporting, or, something that we would not have to go out and do some kind of a public records, or, request them at the time that we get a public records.
Yeah.
We would need to have them in-house, so we would know exactly what's happening.
And what we've done with other grants that we've received is they tell us they want it monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever they want. And then we send them, and it's already redacted. So we wouldn't necessarily, unless you're requesting it, then we'd want to put it in our paperwork that we're releasing their information to you. So it'd be confidential. We wouldn't allow anybody to have their information. So if Jack comes to me and says, I need housing, it might say his initials, or it might say male, 43 years old, needing this service. That's what you would get.
And I would want legal counsel to clarify that that would be sufficient for
Exactly.
any kind of an audit. Because if Jack is again, worst case scenario, I've been in banking way too many years and I've seen the worst of the worst. If Jack is your son, then we don't have that information on who actually received those funds at the end of the day. And so it would be something that we would have to be able to communicate who was the recipient of those funds. Right now, we have full documentation on their entire story when those funds are given out. So
So we
that would
could
be my
have,
concern, is how
could
we
have that
communicate.
application. We could have your application.
Okay,
We could make it our application. And in that request, they are gonna know that this money is from you and that you will be receiving their information. Because then we've got that release of information.
Yes, I think that would be really critical. I think it would be important that, you know, we maintain some kind of record keeping on our end for where these funds go.
Yeah,
Because I
we
think
can
if
do that.
you redact it too far, then we are out of control with where those public funds have gone.
There were a few other questions that our office had that we've requested legal advice, and that was unfortunately just yesterday. So I don't think legal is able to provide us with their opinion, but currently Valley County records a lien against that individual and expects repayment. And if we did in fact contract with a nonprofit, would they have the authority or even the willingness to do a lien or collect repayment, or would it in fact just be a gift to those individuals? But right now, the county currently, as I indicated, records a lien against that individual, and if they have property, but really right now what we're doing, it's just against the individual, because it's usually rental assistance or energy assistance that we're providing right now. So legal is currently researching that, and I do think that any nonprofit that is selected, or if we did put this out, let's just say that it is Ignite, and they agree to contract with the county to provide indigent services, do they have an interest on requesting repayment? Currently, Valley County receives between $15,000 to $5,000 a year in repayment that we put back into the program.
That's a self-sustaining fund then.
Those funds come from the medical side of it, though. Very seldom do we get rent or empower back.
Correct. That
So
is
that is
an
medical.
accurate statement. Sorry, Candace.
No, that's totally medical indigent that we're receiving. We no longer do medical, but because we still have that contract with those people, they're still paying us. And we send the portion to the state that needs to go to the state, and then we keep medical that we have. As far as the liens go, since we're providing the funds for them, could we not still do a lien on those people so that if something happens, we at least get that money back?
Doug, is that a state mandate that we?
It's not necessarily, well, I guess it was a mandate previously when we were doing medical indigent, yes. And it's just something that we have continued to do when we provide, say, rental service or electricity, that we do in fact also do a lien.
Which makes sense considering it's taxpayer dollars.
Correct.
Right. And being they're contracting, we're giving them the grant money basically. Why couldn't we put a lien on that? That would also be helping tracking what they're doing at the same time. Does that make sense?
Is it, okay, so in that scenario, if we're trying to make things more efficient for you, is that really reducing any of the responsibility that you have? I guess up front, basically what they're doing is talking to Ignite, they're working with the individual, they're getting all of their information, and then they're coming to you and saying, hey, I need funding or, you know, whatever to do this. But if we did a block of funds, so we did $25,000 at a time, and they took care of all of that, gave you the envelope at the end of the day, said, we've given this person $1,000, you know, and we are tracking, would they be paying us back? Would they be paying, you know, Ignite's out of it at that moment in time. So if they give us something for repayment, they'd be repaying the county. I think that's how we'd have to do that.
I would think so too.
So, question for you, your current programming, do you do this type of assistance? And if so, is it required for them to pay it back? So, I think that's where it's gonna be a struggle is, right now, Ignite could direct people to the county to come for rental assistance or power but they have to pay it back. So,
There's an expectation.
there's an expectation that they, because it is taxpayer dollars, right, versus a donation or some sort that they have to pay it back. You currently don't demand, or you don't require that. How is that gonna go over
So I have a thought. I'm glad you said it the way you did. So last time I was like, oh, we can't take it if ... But thinking about it, if we're having them fill out the application, so they come into us, you know, we get funding from St. Luke's, we get funding from all these different organizations specifically for certain things. So if somebody was going to accept your funding, and this is what I think the churches and everybody will have to understand, is, you know, we have a bank account specifically for this funds, whatever comes out of it, here's the application, they fill it out, they understand in depth that it is going to be given back to the county, and they owe the county, you know, so it's, we would kind of be, because the people are coming to us anyways, and now there's minimal funds from any organizations to help these people, I think they're gonna be willing to do it, as long as we have that application that states, here's, you're filling this out, you know, our case manager can help them do all that, so it's, you know, it's allowing that piece to be done in our location, us then faxing it to whoever, you know, we could already have the funds in the account, so it's not like they're waiting all this time, but it's, okay, you've got this, here's who you're gonna repay, here's the address, if you have any questions, just get a hold of Betsy, our case manager or whatever. So, I feel like it could work, we would just have to make sure that those, you know, if it's 25,000 or whatever that is, those funds are specifically with this application, and this is what we express to each person that's requesting it. You sign this release of information because the county is getting it, and here's what's gonna happen. Funds from, you know, either the churches or St. Luke's, whatever that is, would be in a different category, and that would be what's not repaid, but they might have to go through our program and do some other things is what I'm hoping for. You know, if somebody comes twice and they're asking for the same type of money, I want them to go through our case management to teach them budgeting or teach them, you know, whatever that, I can't hold a job, so here's how you hold a job, or, so those are the reasons why I kind of want both options, because if they don't have to repay it, but they have to go through this program, it's strengthening them. And that's my reasoning behind doing something like this.
And county funds could be specific for rent or something else, you know. so
Or any of it.
Very clearly identified, and the church funds could be for something else. So it wouldn't have to be even be the same thing, but.
I guess I'm struggling because it just seems like we're adding an extra step, whereas if you're dealing with your clients, you could just say, hey, the county has this opportunity, you could go to them,
Absolutely.
rather than adding you as an additional middle person.
Which is very true. We don't have to. What our original thought was is, before we realized there was that repayment piece, is allowing all the churches to come together. You know, monthly, people would put funds back into that account. So every year it was kind of replenishing itself, and people being able to come in and say, hey, you know, I need gas, or I need housing, or I need food. Okay, and we go through a process and we get them into a service to where we can help them not have that problem again. Those were why we kind of initially put, you know, a business plan together, so that we could help those people regularly, and it wasn't, I mean, we have people come in almost every day needing something.
And we'd probably have to look into the legality of this, Clark, but, you know, we're moving forward with working with you guys on the center over here. It needs some improvements. It's gonna need a budget for it. Would that be another use of these funds to,
I don't think we could do
so
it.
then it
for
further
that, but-
expands.
We
I
can
know
look
you had
into it,
said that
Commissioner, but I don't-
maybe you could take the money and do something else with it.
I think we'd need to take a closer look to see if that would be allowed.
I mean, because then the funds would still be going to help the community and wouldn't have to be paid back.
You know, for this, you know, and for, in my opinion, letting, you know, Tracy's organization to, you know, manage this indigent, I think this is a great way of doing it. Takes a lot more off her plate. She's still handling the same paperwork, still handling everything. She's just a funnel point. And I think even the churches would be tickled to have that. Just a funnel point to go to person, and if that works for us, for you, I think that's an awesome way of doing it.
I think that-
Depending on the depth of it, you know, I think the churches would also be willing to put, you know, funding back into it, so it would be a continuous type of.
Because they see that revolving door. That's why, I remember when Larry put it all together, because it was a revolving door for every church, and all the pastors would get together and talk, and he said, "Oh my goodness, this one comes to you, and then to you, and to you, and to you," and he said, "How can we bring this to one central point?" And it worked for while Larry was in town for 10 years. But the same thing with your organization. If they have one central point, call Tracy. Go over to where Tracy's office is.
I mean, I call Brad Beeman a lot.
Yeah.
And we'll have had the same names cross, so that's why I feel like it will be so beneficial, because the people that, are needing it will get it.
I agree.
I think two things for me. One, you would be more expedient. You'd be able to get them funds faster because Candace has quite a process to go through in order to get it in front of us. And we only meet once a week. So expediency would be there. I think maybe we need a trial period with it just to see how it works. See if it's really saving anything. See if, what that process looks like. I am a little concerned that it's just going to get clunky, if you will, and then it becomes non-beneficial to people. There's a lot of funding there. I think we need to get it out to the community, but it's not self-sustaining. And so therefore you've got to have a repayment plan in there in order to make it self-sustaining. It might last for 10 years, but maybe not.
How many people a month do you have apply?
Oh, not very many. I just had someone call the other day wanting rent, and I asked her to come in and meet with me, and I have not seen her yet. That was 2 days ago.
I
So,
think the thing is a lot of people don't know that the county has the ability to do this. And so I think going through you, we're probably going to see higher usage because you're already seeing those people that are in need.
Right.
And so that's, but to Commissioner Caldwell's point, you could also just make a phone call. Say, hey, I've got this, you can go and apply with Candace at the county and we can put that whole thing together.
And maybe we start there to where we refer them to you to see how many people will actually do it. Because it's obviously not being utilized much.
right, and I see it too, a lot of times when I give them the application, they back off a lot because we're asking for their income, we're asking for their expenses, and we also want rent verification from the landlord that they're renting from. We don't want to give a check out to someone who really doesn't need it.
Right.
So we ask them to jump through a few hoops to get to that money, and a lot of times they just don't show up.
Right.
So,
I think it would, for us to do it, the one thing I notice is the barrier for people that already struggle to ask for help. It's not us saying, okay, now go do one more thing. And that's where we come back to that one-stop shop of come in, let our case manager help you fill this out. Here's the money. I don't give them the money. Now, that might change if it's under them. Okay, so if they're having to repay it, I would probably give it to them. Right now, we give it straight to the organization that is needing their money.
That's what we do too. There was a question, will the county need to continue to pay this? And I think there would have to be something about when the funds are done, the program is done. Because we will not take this out of the regular budget. And as far as about the county soliciting proposals from other potential contractors, I don't know of other potential contractors that do this. I don't know if Horizons does down here, this kind of work.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I've never heard of,
Either, but-
besides the churches, I've never really heard of anybody else doing it. I think that's why we got inundated with people just saying, we need this, we need that, and
I think so too.
Yep.
So I think, I'm willing to consider it. I think that it would be on a trial basis and maybe we start with 10,000 and see how long that goes. And that might be, but also what would be your fee to do this?
So that was one thing that we would definitely have to look at. I mean, I would consider it being what I pay one of my case managers, you know, that really they would be helping with that process, you know, maybe having that be put into one person's position or hiring somebody. I mean, we need to hire a couple people, so if you guys know anybody, send them my way. You know, but
Back at you.
it would basically
What kind of
be,
positions do?
it would basically be a case manager that would be doing that.
So it would be 50 or 60,000 a year then to do this work.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference too, because we already have staff here doing the work. So
And
that
we
just
already have
increases-
staff too, so it might not be that, I mean, they might do it 4 hours a week. They might do it, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like their whole position insane, you know, it would be.
So you'd have to let us know then kind of what that proposal would be, what that amount would be. I mean, I'm willing to try something. I think it's a great idea. I like the consolidated thought of, you know, being one group in the community to do this, but I do think there's some obstacles to overcome. I think it would have to be a really strong MOU on what
Yes.
the expectations would be. So I think if you would give us some idea on what the price would be to do this kind of work. And then we really need to figure out what the ability to audit funds. So, you know, somehow work with Candace and figure out streamlining that process to make sure that we would have everything we would need for an audit.
And I think, like I said, we do have other funding sources that require that same thing. And we have databases that we use that we can pull reports. The biggest thing would be the application. Getting the person's permission to give you the application, I think is really the only thing for us in giving out somebody else's information.
All right, we are out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we just have a few more details to try and iron out. All right, up next, we have a budget workshop. So in this workshop, everyone that's asking for one of the new positions is gonna come talk to us. Why do you need it? All that good kind of stuff. I'm trying to find Mike's email to us. Everyone did fill out, I believe, the STAR requirements. Mike, would you like to start the conversation? Okay, I found it. So we have, right now, we have 1, 5, 6 new positions?
Well, we have a number of them from the sheriff's office.
The sheriff's office is sick.
Yeah, they have 6 of their own right there.
Are they in the room? Tell them to, they get 1. Whittle it down.
Problem solved.
Commissioners, yes, we received a number of requests this year for new positions. And everybody that asked for it per your requirement filled out a request for new position form wherein they described the title of the position and estimated cost of the position, and then did the STAR analysis, which the STAR letters stand for how this position will improve service, transparency, accountability, and responsiveness to the taxpayers of Valley County. Everybody who had requested a position did complete that form. Those forms were forwarded on to you for your review. And just to run through real quick, the departments that have requested positions, we do have a position from the assessor's office.
Just had to take a phone call.
We have one, we had one from the building department, but that one has been withdrawn since the request was made. We have one from Parks and Recreation for a recreation coordinator, I believe.
So do we want to take that one first?
You can take them in any order.
Okay.
We have another one from the wildfire mitigation program. And then we get into the sheriff's office positions that they have requested.
Okay. The assessor's back in here, so you wanna start with Sue?
Yeah.
We'll just go down. Okay.
By all
Dave, you get a
means.
break for a minute.
Okay, so I emailed you my packet. Did you all get it?
Haven't had time to read it yet, but.
We had actually received all of that prior.
Okay. Maybe I sent it
Oh,
twice. Better than not at all. Cindy said she called and left you a message,
She did.
so you need to
I
call
talked.
back and let her know if you want her to come tomorrow.
Already talked to her.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so obviously I sent the STAR form to you guys. The second page, we lined out how many new subs and how many new parcels.
We have 562 new parcels for 25.
Last year, yeah. Well, yeah. For last year that came on the rolls for 2025, yes.
Wow.
And then the 2026 was as of July 7th so far that had been approved and that will be going on the rolls. And as you all know, the second half of the year is when they really get after doing the recordings and what have you. So that's just a partial year. But if you add 23, 24, and 25, that's 843 parcels that we've added on the rolls in those 3 years. Those are 3 full years. Typically, your average appraiser during reval has between 800 and 1,000 parcels that they are responsible for, on top of course, their building permits throughout the whole county, you know, and their certificate of occupancies, etc. You add in the 111 that we have so far, that's 954 parcels, and I'm sure that 111 is gonna look more in the 400 to 500 range before the end of the year. That will be going on the rolls for 2026. Last year, I was going to request an additional appraiser because per our 5-year reappraisal plan that we have to file with the state tax commission and it has to be approved through them, we should have 8.5 appraisers, and we should have had it for 23, 24, 25, 26, and so forth, which I also included in your packet. You had stated, please, no one asked for new positions last year, and so I put the brakes on and didn't do it because, you know, we had other things we were trying to take care of as a county as a whole. But this year, because we have added that many parcels on, I truly need another person. The other thing that's also happening is one of my appraisers is cross-training for the data processing job because our data processor could retire on us at any moment. I don't know when she plans on it, but I just know that you can't learn her job in 2 weeks. You can't even learn her job in 2 months.
Cross-training is an important tool.
It is very important, and so I've got that cross-training going on, which is taking away time from that appraiser to be able to do all of her work.
So not only when we hire positions, we also have to think, especially in your department, but that's another vehicle. Is that correct? Or would this person share a vehicle?
No, we'd be okay with the vehicles that we have.
Okay.
For now.
And then the new space, you've got room
I have
at the
room
new
for them,
location?
yes, I made
Okay.
sure of it.
Okay.
So that's all taken care of. The projection into the future for those. You know, I mean, yes, we might need another laptop and another camera. But other than that, and well, I need 2 more tablets anyway, but that's minimal things that aren't already
Those
taken
are-
care of.
Automatic expectations.
Yes. On your next page, Jen, our commercial appraiser, did some numbers for you showing the commercial growth. Since 2020, we've seen a 287% increase in commercial. I'm sure you guys are already pretty much aware of all of that anyway, which means that she needs to be focusing more on commercial properties and less on residential, which is kind of pushing that residential load to the other appraisers as well. The very next page, we have information on building permits, whether it be the county, city of Cascade, McCall, or Donley. got the total permits at the bottom. The last column for 2025 is only up until July 8th. So you can see that the permits in total, about 700 every year. We're not there yet for this year, but that's the partial number where we're at. We're up to 312. So on the very last page is the staffing requirement that I attached from our 5-year plan that we filed with the State Tax Commission. And it shows that the projected reappraisal staff should be 8.5. I'm currently at 7.5, and probably actually 7 if you want to take away the person, half of the person that's training for the data processing position. So it's getting to the point, we've been able to make it work, but we're scrambling. And we can't provide, we're the breadwinners for the county, as you know. We want to be able to get as much on the rolls every year as possible. If I'm understaffed, it's tough to do. So I would appreciate your consideration for fulfilling the position in Rayval. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
For the assistant? Okay, thank you.
Real quick question for you, see, so on here on the staffing, it says total staff required across the board, 10 and some change.
So that would be the rest of the support staff, like cartography.
It's adding all those in there.
Yeah, those would be, for that line that you're looking at, the required staff count, that
Mhm.
would include the, cartography. So June, the work that she does for us part-time, because she does all the intake on all the building permits, she enters all the sales, things like that. So she's like probably a quarter of a position. So but that's that required staff count line. So the bottom line says projected reappraisal staff, so that'd be your appraisers. They're saying it's gonna take 8.5 appraisers to get the job done.
Just to get it done. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Mhm.
Director Bingaman, you're up next.
Perfect. So a couple of things that I just want to remind you guys of is that we were looking at this position to service the Horse Thief Campground and our Wellington Campground. And I guess the reason that we were looking at moving forward with this position is, one, that we don't have the capacity within our department right now to take on another 108 unit campground. That would fund this position after the first year. Looking at what is on the wall up there, the numbers that I submitted were a little bit different. We looked at the salaries comparable to Parks and Rec staff for Idaho Department of Parks and Rec, their campground personnel. And then also based on the position description that we're putting together, our building techs. And so the hourly rate that we had come up with was actually a little bit higher. It was $21.17. And that comes out with 6.5 to 7 months of them being on site. That comes out to about 24,000 and change. Again,
Taking notes, Gabby, or do we need to take notes, or just taking notes to make these changes?
I am notating that requested amount.
Perfect.
So, question for you.
You bet.
This is something we'd already talked about before the horse thief
Mhm.
deal, that you guys needed another half person. So if we tried to bump that to a full person with half of that being paid by the receipts, or maybe even all of it being paid by horse thief, is that something that we can look at this point, or?
Based on our projected revenue, it would probably take 2 years for us to get to the point where we could pay that person for a full-time position out of the receipts from Horse Thief.
Okay.
We're gonna have increased revenue at Wellington as well. So there's gonna be money that would go towards this position, and we could certainly use another person to help us in the winter. As far as like running fuel, cleaning bathrooms. That would give us an opportunity to have somebody in the parking lots in the mornings at the snowmobile camp parking lots. So, I mean, I would absolutely support that if that was something that you guys were willing to look at.
So this is part-time year-round?
This position is a part-time seasonal that I requested, and it would basically, what I had thought of as the operating season for the campground, probably May through middle of October. So this person would need to come on probably like one pay period before May, so the middle of April, and then be probably through October.
So you're currently have just stepped into your director position. Do you plan to do any reorg of your current department? I think that's something that's really important to look at. I think where you're going to take the department's different than maybe possibly what was done in the past. I mean, do you plan on spending a lot of your time with like the Pay It Forest Coalition, the Boise, those type of meetings, or is that going to be put back to the commissioners and you're going to focus? I guess because your department isn't even fully staffed yet.
Right.
And so have you looked into that reorg or?
I have, yes, absolutely. I mean, I've been thinking about that for a couple of years. And the honest truth is that I think I can be a little bit more efficient not participating in every single one of those kinds of collaboratives. I think that we get the agendas far enough in advance that I can pick and choose, hey, if there's something that particularly applies towards our recreational programs, then I can go to those meetings. I don't think that I need to sit through all of the meetings, you know, pertaining to wildfire management or the other things that are discussed in those collaboratives. So I'm hoping that personally my time will be more streamlined. We just sent that planner notice out as well, and I see that planner position potentially being filled by somebody who has, you know, a very broad skill set that can do a little bit of everything. You know, I mean, that is one of the things that, you know, when I was hired as a planner, they said, this is not just a sit in the office job, this is a doing job. So I'd like to keep that moving forward as well.
Right, which is probably a big plus for a lot of people to not have to sit in office. And my point of asking this is, you know, I understand that definitely taking over another 108 unit campground is going to be difficult, but I just wonder how it's going to move forward before we make major decisions.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, so right now, Danny and I split up cleaning the toilets that we have twice a week. Honestly, the demand is increasing for summer use right now, such that we really need to be cleaning those toilets 3 times a week. We go to all of our sites and they are out of toilet paper and they need servicing. So that's one area that we can improve our services. You know, it's a crappy detail that you probably didn't need. But there's a lot of different things, like I said, especially through the summer. If we do end up with more campgrounds, we want somebody who can provide, like, you know, light maintenance if something goes wrong with the water system, or if there's a problem with one of the picnic tables that we're not looking for a contractor to send this out to. We're like, that's your job, fix it. You know, Danny and I can't like drop everything that we're doing and go down to Horse Thief every time we have a problem. And so again, our thought process is we have somebody on site that manages that site and the Wellington site exclusively. And as we add sites, that's when we would potentially be looking at adding more folks to help with that. In the meantime, we have an opportunity for this position to be funded without taxpayer money after the first year. So even without increasing the revenue at Horse Thief right now, there's money to pay for this position in it.
For about 7.5 months. And so if you put that part-time seasonal, and part-time year-round, that would only be 4.5 months of the county funding.
Exactly.
Well, Horse Thief's currently funding somebody, or the existing situation is like $55,000 a year.
Yes.
It was going to a position. So technically, next year, once we take that over, I mean, that will fund the other half of this position. For certain.
I'm not sure if that 55,000 was just for one position or if that included the campground host stipends. But
Well,
I see the projected revenue covering that position fully, and I think that within the next 3 years, we could probably fund it as a year-round position out of that fund, that new revenue source as well.
you think you can find a seasonal person that fits the department? That's the only thing. When you hire a seasonal, it's really difficult to get somebody
It
that,
is.
you know, fits the complexity of the department and you can actually count on. So,
One thing that we do have to offer them is that they could have a spot at the campground with power and water. So that would be an opportunity to maybe bring somebody in from outside the area if we didn't have applicants from in the area that wanted to do that seasonally. There are quite a few people that like to be part of that scene, you know, as I think is demonstrated by the campground host program.
I guess we can put it out, and if you can't get it, then we can have a different conversation.
Right?
Agree.
Any other questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Mike, who's up next?
Oh, Dave, real quick,
Does it matter? Guess it doesn't
have
really
you put
matter.
out for that position to take your planner position yet?
That went live on Monday.
It did go live on
Yes.
Monday?
And I've had 3 calls. People were interested in finding out more details about it.
Awesome.
So I think we're going to have a good applicant pool on that. And I think that we have the opportunity to pick somebody who's really good at that.
Awesome.
Good. Thank you.
Director Holovacek, wildfire.
Hello. So with my position, as you guys well know, I'm completely grant funded, so that's one of the big discussions truly for you guys is going forward, what you guys see the future for this department being. I have noticed just specifically what I've accomplished here is a lot of things that I am doing are things that are assistance to taxpayer dollars. So like home assessments, the mobile risk assessment portal, I have about 5,000 unassessed parcels to identify what their fire risk is. And as you heard with the assessor, they have 5 or 6 assessors that do 800 in a year, and I have 5,000. The other problem with that is it's me doing those assessments myself with some help from the fire departments, which as long as we can keep the momentum going, I can get there eventually, but I'm only getting like 100 done a year. The problem with that is I'm not bringing in revenue, right? It's all the things that I'm doing for this department is giving assets and education to the community. So wildfire home assessments, the mobile risk assessments, I do a lot of education and presentations and HOAs. And last year when I had Stephanie, I was able to do 9 HOA presentations and 11 just public seminars. And this year I've been able to do 2 HOAs. So I've already noticed a tremendous cutback on those assets that we can provide to landowners because I just don't have the time by myself, which is fine. It just depends on what the commissioners and the county wants to provide to landowners. I've been solely focusing on getting work accomplished and implemented on the ground, and that's really going to be some of my focus if I don't get an employee, because I have to get that money spent. And all this other stuff, I can do minimal stuff, but I just can't do as much as I did last year.
With the NFF funds coming, do we have an opportunity there? But most importantly, how are we going to participate with them in the highest and best value for Valley County moving forward if we don't give you someone with some more time?
So, as of right now, I'm in all the collaborations, the All Lands Partnership. I facilitate all the fire working group. The goal is for all landowners to outreach to the county first, so we know where they're working and who they're talking to, and that the right message is going out to the public in a unified system. So thinking about $20 million coming into Valley County, Adams County, and Boise County, I currently have, I want to say it out loud, but I have 40 voicemails on my office phone I have not been able to get to. And that's without that funding here right now. And so also it's because I've been putting myself out there that this department allows and takes in home assessments, takes in HOA presentations. So that's, the public's wanting that. They're wanting education. I just can't get to everyone. So
we need to put her position out tomorrow.
that's the biggest thing is you guys also deciding how that's funded, right? Because I did talk to Brian Davis. We can make a modification to the G&A agreement to make that, so if we do have a new employee, that comes out of the G&A, and mine could potentially be paid by taxpayer dollars if that's what you guys choose and opt to do. That modification would happen in the next 6 months because we can't do it right now. It was supposed to be done yesterday through the G&A agreement with the Forest Service. And as of right now, you guys know how the funding is who knows if we're gonna get additional funding for the GNA agreements. With the IDL grants, I can bring in about 20 to 30 grand to help cover someone's wage. If I have another employee, that person, their whole focus would be implementation, inspection, and home assessments. And so about 20 to 30 grand of their wage could be covered if that's what their sole focus is. But I'm getting pulled in other directions, so I've been able to get a grant done in 2 years instead of just one. Just because of all those other avenues I've been pulled in. So it kind of just depends on how fast I can get that money on the ground, how much more we can get to cover our wages here.
I think wildfire prevention is a super high, I think it's really important for the county to do this. It should be a high priority. And I think that right now with all the fires going on, it's a high expectation of our constituents that we're providing this work, so that's my assessment.
I've been fussing at her for 2 years about how we're gonna put her on full-time, because the asset that brings to the county is huge.
And as you are well aware, too, SRS funding could potentially help pay for that position, but with the unknown of it being,
It's not reliable.
and so, I mean, I think that's the hardest part with my department is in the past, it has been fully funded by some sort of grant and or SRS, and that's really unknown right now. And so that's some of the big discussion for you guys to have is,
So we're
'Cause
talking about
yeah.
putting Mara on as an employee, and your helper would be through the grant,
yeah, potentially.
and the grant's okay with that?
We'd have to have another discussion with Brian Davis to make sure that was feasible, but that's what Boise County did.
I think right now we just need to decide that there's 2 positions in this division, and then we'll figure it out from there on who gets paid from where.
I think actually the commissioners need to make a final decision, because why bring on someone when we haven't made a final decision on Mara's position? Whether it's for sure in the future, I know it's frustrating to have grant funding brought up every time you present. I think it would be great if you were 100%, we were behind you 100%, and you didn't have to hear about being grant funded for your position. So I personally would like to see the commissioners actually make a decision.
If I were making it today, I would tell Mara that you will always be a part of Valley County. I mean, I think the fire mitigation is so important in this county that, yes, we try and fund it through grants when we can get that. But if not, we are going to have to put her on as an employee of the county. That would be my vote right
We
now.
will always be commissioners, so I think it
Correct.
needs to,
Yep.
the decision needs to be made. And also, I think for Mara, so she doesn't have to, hear us say that she's grant funded and we don't know whether she's gonna be here in 2 years.
So what are you asking us to do right now?
Well, I don't know that we have to do it right now. This isn't an action item, or I don't know if it has to be, but I think we need to make a decision that she's taxpayer funded.
I agree with that. I would vote on that today, so.
Who do?
Any other questions?
Not right now.
I'll look into changing agreements and stuff like that a little bit more. We can talk about it in the future with Brian and Patrick Shawn. So,
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mara.
Okay, that's all the new positions we're gonna consider this year.
Oh, no, we have one for them.
I just had to mess with you, I'm sorry. Before you guys got here, we said, well, they get one, so let them figure out what it is. Come on up.
Ask her.
Wherever you want.
Wherever you want, that's great.
Come up to the
You
big
guys have a
table.
number of them.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So as you can see, you've been working on these. Let's start with communication deputy. So, as everybody knows, the calls keep going up every single year. We're going up between 10 to 15% a year we've been at the same staffing since the 2010 anyway. And there are a lot of times that we've got one dispatcher working on the county. And that, you know, if you get a major crash down in the canyon or something like that, Deadwood, wherever it happens to be, and then McCall's kicking off too, it becomes really overwhelming really quick. And our goal, and for the first time on paper right now, dispatch is fully staffed. We just have to get them through the training. So we're looking to expand this to where we can have a minimum of 2 people on, especially during the busy times where the swing shift type thing comes, all the busy times. That's kind of what we're looking to do here. And I'm sure you guys have already read all the reasons and everything. So I guess I just stand for questions. But you guys
I question, so there's a lot of talk right now about regionalization. And I don't want to bring people on, and then a year from now, the regionalization conversation, you know, actually materializes. Or how do we use technology to help offset where we're going right now? So if Payette is truly the backup and our dispatcher is tied up on a call, does it kick out?
It's really easy to confuse hardware regionalization and people regionalization. Right now, the regionalization is for the hardware, the actual T1 lines coming in and all the operational systems for dispatch. There is no talk right now to regionalize the dispatch center.
Is there any in Idaho that are like that? Because it doesn't
The
matter.
only one you have is ISP. ISP has regionalized area 1, 2, and 3. So they have it. The difference with ISP and a county sheriff's office, though, and that's what's the hard part, is you have a very rigid system on mileposts. From south to north, it goes bigger. From west to east, it goes bigger. And so everybody can figure out State Highway 55 mile marker 89, especially people who are always dispatching everything. There's a big difference between addresses and stuff like that, and then knowing the background of somebody's houses. That's another thing that has to get over there. Sometimes we're getting called to minimum 2 officer response places, and that's going to be the trick. And I think we're going to get there. I think it's going to happen because CAD's going to help us on that. That it'll all be input and everything, and they can read that no matter where they're at. I'm with you. I see that coming. I do not see it coming in the next day.
I got a question on, explain to me the difference between a communication deputy and a lead.
Supervision.
Supervision?
A supervisor. Right now, the way we've been doing it is our prior supervisor and now our current interim supervisor. They're expected to handle grants. They're expected to handle upgrades into the system. They're expected to handle all the administrative part of dispatch, as well as they're still a call taker. They're doing everything a regular dispatcher is doing, but yet they're expected to also run the division.
Right.
And
So grant writing should be through the grant department.
it is, but
Is that just a support?
what happens is they're still packaging it. They're still packaging it because it's still all coming in through eyelets and everything that says, hey, this is coming up, this is coming up. So they still have to package it. And then they're the ones, the supervisor is keeping our CAD clean to where we're gonna have multiple people with different dates of birth or different spelling or anything. They go through calls every single day and make sure that our CAD is clean, which comes down to officer safety on the backside of it. So it's a big job. So that's the difference between basically it's supervision. And since I become sheriff, that is my actual biggest concern, is that we have and that's what you're gonna see in here. We have a lack of supervision. Valley County's not what it was when I got here. As a matter of fact, it's gonna be a little bit, but you guys are gonna be watching a video that happened last night that we had a guy literally tell the deputy he's gonna kill him, and it was a knockdown drag out with blade. So things are changing, and we need supervision on all shifts, and that's what my aim is. You see a lot of things here. I don't expect them all this year. I'm trying to give you guys a 5-year thing of, hey, this is coming down the pike. We're gonna have to get into 24/7 coverage. We're gonna have to do this, and here's my roadmap to do it. So please don't think I'm expecting all this year. I am not.
Good to know.
I'm just trying to put it on the radar to where we see where it's going.
Where is your priorities then?
My priority is a communications deputy.
We did label them as priorities.
We kind of moved it to.
Sorry, I'm looking at the
Priority.
spreadsheet up there, so I don't
Oh, it's
have.
not there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on there's your patrol sergeant's priority number.
And then things have changed since then is the problem though. So yeah, our patrol sergeant has changed. Communications deputy is pretty important. We gotta get some relief in there where we have more than one person on. The amount of times they're, bathroom breaks, all the rest of it, they're coming out because of 911's ringing. We need to bring that up to where there's a minimum too. If we have a medical emergency up there or something in the middle of the night, I just, there's so many things that run through my mind as far as tactical and everything that just quite frankly scare me. There's nobody up there.
So your communication lead is just an upgrade to one of your
Yes,
existing
that is-
deputies.
It's not a second position, it's just a,
Bring somebody
Same
in
thing
just-
with the sergeant, that's an upgrade from one of your existing. Same thing with the detention corporal.
Yeah, and the detention court will bring us to, again, where there will be an active supervisor on every single shift.
So then the other two are patrol deputies.
Patrol deputies.
One's backcountry?
These are the ones that I'm saying, these are what we need to look at in the future.
on the radar.
I don't expect them this year. I'm tired of coming to the commissioners and saying, here's what we need right now. What I want is to be able to start showing, here's where we're going, here's the roadmap to get there, just to get it in your minds as well, thinking long term. I think we owe it to ourselves, I think we owe it to our team, and I think we owe it to our constituents that we're doing a minimum of 5-year plan. Quite frankly, I think we should be 10, 15, 20-year plans. And we've been doing these yearly records and everything that our lieutenant's been putting together, and we can see how much calls for service and how much the calls that come in, like I've told you 100 times. When I got here, we were lucky to do 3 or 4 felonies a year.
A year.
And now it's
We're
just,
getting weekly.
and now they're major felony crimes and violent. Like when you guys see the violence in this video from last night, it'll shake you to your core. And unfortunately, luckily at this point,
Was that at Board and Wagon?
no, it was in the jail. And luckily we had one guy on the floor. The other person's in the control room. They can't come. Luckily we had a guy that was right at home just a block away. He had to run in civvies to help.
Oh my gosh.
It's and law enforcement's getting more and more scary, as you know. And quite frank, I was just reading on Officer 1 that it's almost 2/3 more likely to happen in a small jurisdiction than a big jurisdiction, just because they know they have the upper hand as far as staffing.
Yeah, my son's a deputy at
Why everybody's
the
okay?
county, so
Everybody's okay?
He's okay, shaken up. I was in the hospital with him last night until about 11:30.
Yep.
But he's okay.
He's banged up, but
that happens. And unfortunately, it happens. You're dealing with people.
So your position, the backcountry versus the road, which
Yeah.
is your higher priority?
I'll be honest with you. I'm opening dialogue with Perpetua to try to come up with some sort of help on backcountry deputies, because in the next year they're talking about having a man camp up there within a year and a half of up to 1,500 people. That's Cascade.
And the potential of alcohol at that man camp.
And then you got Cascade, you got,
Supposed to be dry, but
that's there.
There's some disagreement on how they're gonna pursue drivers and stuff.
Right, and then as Commissioner Caldwell, I know, is growing up here, so she probably remembers when Stib Night was going, the kind of crashes we were called to, especially because they're gonna start trying to keep that open in the winter. That scares me to death. Yellow Pine was hopping, and I just think, right now we have 2 backcountry deputies for that division. And of course, we won't send a deputy in the backcountry by themselves, so that's just a 2-man team. So half of the time, we have to have patrol going if there's calls. Other than that, we
what happens on their days off?
we send patrol
we send patrol.
on overtime.
And we're talking about already development deal with Perpetua. That needs to be factored in.
Yeah, unless they're gonna have some sort of private security, it's gonna have to be figured out.
They're going to do security there. I've been talking to Belinda. They are going to do security there. But as we all know, security goes so far, but they don't have arrest powers. They don't, when things really go sideways, you need a badge and a gun there.
Yep.
And it's not just at the camp. Like I said, my thing is all these people coming in and out, coming into Yellow Pine.
Well, and that's part of the development agreement, because they're supposed to be busing everyone in and out.
All right. Well, those heavy trucks coming down, I'm sure you remember the kind of crashes that were back there at that time, and they were pretty severe crashes. So
You get people
I'm
in this
just
area
I'm just
making
trying to get in front of this, but I'm also trying to figure out how to have somebody that's going to demand a lot of our attention back there help pay for it. So I've been in talks with that, and we will see how that goes. So that's.
That would make a difference too on how many positions you got, so.
Commissioners, that kind of opened the door for me to provide my 2 cents. I also think that we should take a look at the contributions that are being made from fire districts, EMS, City of McCall regarding what they pay to support the dispatch communication deputies.
Agreed.
Something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know that if it needs to be next year, but we do need to put it on the radar for those entities that it's quite possible that we will need to increase their contributions.
And they're all going through budget right now, so.
I'm glad the clerk brought that up. I don't know, I have directed the chief deputy to try to come up with some sort of roundtable discussions this winter. Everybody has a little more time. The clerk, the chief of McCall, the chief of all the EMS and fires, everybody get together to where we can see what it actually is. And then figure out usage and come up with some sort of fair thing instead of just one or two of us arbitrarily saying, hey, yo, this. I think if everybody has a seat at the table and understands the true, I think it's easier to get buy-in. And I think it's easier to come up with a reasonable number for everybody and make it equitable as we can. And so I've instructed the chief deputy to make that happen and have a roundtable so we can get into that. And then, so it would be next budgeting cycle that maybe we could get more, an influx in revenue on that as well.
Makes sense.
So I'm hesitant to just, I'm the sheriff, so I say, yo, this. That's just, it's not gonna work out very well. So I think if we all sit at the table and actually can see the whole problem and then work on it together, I think we're just gonna have a better chance of still, I wanna keep the relationships that we built. And I think that's the best way to do it, is make sure everybody has a seat at the table and everybody understands what it is, and then come up to an agreement between all of us.
Agreed.
I agree. That's awesome.
So this is your 5-year plan then? You don't see anything else coming up, capital improvements? I mean, I know you guys were trying to remodel over there, but are we still working on that? And, you know, is there anything else that?
That's the biggest part, is that front office remodel and more of a safety thing. Here's kind of how I have done things, right, wrong, or indifferent, but a lot of times, just like last night's thing. What are we doing? We're dissecting that. What went right? What went wrong? What could we change? What could make this safer? What could make it more streamlined? And of course, we're looking at different ways for patrol to make it into the jail on an emergency like this, because if everybody's fighting on the ground in a life or death fight, then their backup needs to get in. Now, thank God, last night our backup was at Little Donner, and I already was mobile, so I got here with the ambulance. But and so we have identified a few things. So there's always going to be those things, and I think we're falling down if we don't go, what went right, what went wrong, and how can we make it safer for the next time? Because there's going to be a next time.
Well, and do we have the right personnel in the right places? You know, so that's something definitely to look at.
Supervision's big.
And so with these positions, a large part of our income for the county is our inmates over there. And so if we do new positions and totally, first of all, let me ask this question. Are you already full? I mean, are your patrol deputies, all of your positions are full right now?
Technically, patrol's technically full. But I see an opening coming, but we already have a person in line for that.
Okay. So we don't have outstanding positions that we're not able to fill anyway.
There's one posted on the job opportunities for the county,
For
patrol deputy.
We leave that open just so we have a running list.
Okay.
We have 2 that we pulled from the jail to patrol to go to post in September. And if an opening comes up, which I'm pretty sure it is, then we already have somebody in mind out of the Marine Division to go over. So we could have, potentially have 3 patrol guys in post in September.
But the
Well,
jail is full right
And the
now.
jail, I don't know what happened, Commissioner, but all of a sudden, we're getting more quality applicants than we have spots. It's for the first time, and I don't know how long. I don't know what happened, but it's like, we've got some quality people who want to be here and have access to be here.
Wow.
Are our ratios correct at the jail in order to be able to take inmates and, because that is a huge income stream for the
It
county.
is a huge income, and that is one thing that's, I've been speaking to Lieutenant LaCroix about it, and at this point it is. In the future, there's gonna need to be more. This thing that happened yesterday, I'm, in industry standard, jail standards, there's 2 people on at a time in the jail, and that's what we keep. And that's what was there yesterday, but obviously 2 isn't enough, because somebody still has to run that board and get people in and out. So you're fighting by yourself until somebody else gets there. And quite frankly, I think it's gonna be time with the kind of people that are coming into our jail. Not all of them, obviously. There's so many good people that wind up in the jail. We just caught them doing something wrong at the wrong time, okay? But there are the ones that wanna hurt or kill deputies. And I'm not comfortable, and I'm gonna see if we can change the schedule around a little more to get, I want 2 people on that floor that's actually movable and not stuck to that, control room. Because we can't leave that empty. Right, that's the way in for patrol or anybody else coming in to help admin, whatever it is.
So the patrol's position is fairly critical because they can go to multiple areas. I mean, they could go to the backcountry, they could go into the jail, they could do other things
Right.
other than just be on patrol.
Exactly. And just for heads up, I've been talking with Post, because I'm trying to figure out, and I have a hard time with, we have to send somebody into detention post, and they're detention certified. And they move to the road, and now we have to send them to road post for another 14 or 15 weeks. And it's like, can we do, and a lot of that is law week's the same. There's a lot of things that are the same, and it's like, can we just have it for sheriff's offices, a deputy post to where we can get them certified for patrol and the jail, and that way, if patrol's heavy and jail's not, we can just send them in. They're certified for it, vice versa, and be able to just move our staffing without worrying about certifications. Just have them all certified as a deputy, and then be able to use them where we need them. It's gaining a little bit of traction, but it's going to take some time.
All right, any other questions?
No, I'm good with it. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Commissioners, before we move on, we have Director Hamilton from the Extension Office. She wasn't requesting a new position, but she did have a couple that she'd like to discuss about reshuffling around a little bit. So,
Okay.
So I emailed the packets, but I also have paper copies.
Perfect. We got it this morning, didn't we?
Yes. And then,
Time to read it.
since it's not a new position, I didn't have that star form, but I did fill out a star form. And the signed copies on the top, and emailed copies in your inbox. So essentially, the request is to move the 4-H assistant position to a 4-H coordinator position. We've been very fortunate to have a full-time 4-H coordinator, a full-time 4-H assistant, as well as an AmeriCorps supporting primarily the community role of 4-H, where we've been able to show up in unprecedented ways at after-school programs and community events, and that's been fantastic. And so we partnered with Ignite to do Donnelly after-school programming, the Cascade after-school programming, CAP, and the Payette Lakes up in McCall. And we've also been able to do partnership with the Cascade Cultural Arts Centers and libraries in ways that we haven't showed up before previously. And so restructuring, we're just proposing to move into 2 coordinator roles. And so it would go from the pay grade, the 4-H assistant pay grade of being a B up to a C. And speaking with Mike, I didn't put like the hard numbers in there, but it's a small shift about $2,000 from what we had discussed to be at the bottom of that pay scale of pay grade C, to shift from the assistant position to a 4-H coordinator role. And then that pay grade C scale is on par with other counties for that 4-H coordinator position. The position descriptions that I attached, essentially the one position filled, that's kind of the current responsibilities that are on that 4-H coordinator role. And it's been supported by a 4-H assistant to do those things. And so I've kind of delineated that primarily the 4-H club volunteer and leadership development role takes up 70% of that time. And 30% would go to community partnerships, non-formal youth education. And so if we didn't have the extra support in the office, we wouldn't be able to show up in that community sphere with youth development in the ways that we currently are. And to change the assistant position to the coordinator position, we can continue to show up in that capacity and grow capacity and grow leadership. And I have some information that the new district director shared with me. There's an initiative with the 4-H youth development called Beyond Ready. And so that's a new area that Extension is growing in. And essentially it's addressing the need that there's going to be 100 million unfilled jobs, and that 53% of the Gen Z report feeling lonely and failing at life goals. And then that 77% of employees focus on less traditional school subjects and more on real world skills. And so having that 4-H community person could help address some of those concerns and challenges that we have right now with our youth audience through additional capacity to do leadership development, workforce development, and civic engagement and soft skills. And I did put that into the position description explicitly, that workforce development component. When I first requested the 4-H assistant position, it was when Donnelly was expanding with their housing in town. And my pitch was idle hands have idle time lead to idle things. And we need to make sure that after school programming is happening to be able to show up for the youth in a way that is really productive. And so I still believe that idle hands lead to idle time to idle things. And so a community that cares about their youth is a community that has programs for the youth. And we provide that programming, but we also show up for community partners that are providing that programming and our key partners. And so I believe Horizon sent a support letter for that youth programming via email. And if they didn't, I can follow up with that request. And then I did include one from the Cascade After School program. And I have, I think I have one also from the Pay at Lakes that I can share. But we are a critical partner to community members or community organizations that are doing great things for the youth.
So are you, I know Aaliyah stepped down.
She did, and so we're just looking at restructuring that assistant position to a 4-H coordinator position.
The whole position is what you're talking about.
Yep. So it goes from a pay grade B to a pay grade C.
So what you're asking us then is just an increase to go from that shift.
Yes.
It's not another position.
No.
So you still have what, 4 people in your department?
No.
You and Allison is one of the coordinators?
Yes.
Okay.
And so with the 2 positions filled, I essentially have it like kind of saying, there would be 2 4-H youth development coordinators. The first one would be the 4-H club volunteer and leadership development. And the second one would be the community partnerships and youth education.
Okay.
So you're just changing from a B to a C is what you're doing.
And it's a small
Makes
pay
sense.
scale shift increase
Yep.
if they're starting at the bottom of that pay scale.
Okay.
I also changed the requirements of the position. So rather than needing a 4-year degree, I changed it to needing 2 years of experience with youth development.
Makes sense.
Do you have any questions?
I'm
I
good.
think so. I need a chance to read it, but
Okay.
what you're saying makes sense to me, so.
Appreciate the input.
Yeah.
As listening to you, I'm saying, well, where did Leah go?
Yes.
I knew where she went, but I mean,
Yeah.
that position just shifted.
Well, that's what we're proposing, is that we structure from the assistant to a coordinator.
Yep.
And that allows for more capacity, more leadership, and just a different structure.
Perfect. All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right, is that everybody? Now's your last chance to speak. All right, we are way behind today, so Next up is an opportunity for the general public to speak. I do want to raise a point requested by one of my constituents in McCall. She had sent an email requesting that we move the meeting on the 23rd to a 6 o'clock time slot. Let me find her email and move that to McCall. This was her initial email she wanted read, asked me to do it. Reaching out to request that the commissioners change the location and time of your continuation over the AOI discussion. It's currently set for, there's a lot of misinformation. It's set for Wednesday, July 23rd, 2 p.m. You can change that to McCall Library Community Hall at 6 o'clock on the 23rd. She said the library's calendar's open. I did state, I'm not gonna read the whole thing. I did tell her that, county business is during county time because everyone works 40 hours a week and it's difficult to change things to nighttime. But then also, it was came to my attention that this is a preset time and date that was set last time, so we cannot change it. And we can't change the location because then we would have to post everything, and it would take a 30-day posting to do that. So we are unable to change that, and I will reach back to her and let her know that. But
Well, plus it was a, what do you call that meeting?
Public hearing?
Public meeting, and the open part of the meeting is done, and it's down to just this board deliberating. So there's no reason to move it anywhere. It should be done right here and in our time frame, like it was posted. So I don't know if we need a motion, but we just leave it like it is.
open to public content, so. Okay. Anything to add at all?
No.
Okay, I will reach back and let her know. I neglected it and I had totally forgotten that it was a set time and date and place that was done at the end of the other public hearing when we closed that public hearing, so. All right, next on the agenda is we have an executive session. So I would move that we go into executive session.
Do you want to clarify when we're going to decide on positions? Because I think people were staying in here to hear our discussion and our thoughts.
Commissioners, we can put it on for continued deliberation. I mean, ultimately, you're not gonna approve anything until the budget's finalized. You'll have your public hearing, right? Commissioner Caldwell, sorry to.
Sorry.
No. But if the commissioners are inclined to have continued deliberations on the requested positions as well as salaries, we can add that on July 23rd. We have plenty of time. The only thing was we did have that next week, as you just indicated, the city of McCall proposed modification of the McCall area of impact is on at 2 o'clock. More than likely, that's probably going to take an hour to 2 hours, but we would have time in the morning for the commissioners to have a continued budget workshop at 10:05.
I think the thing for me is, I want to know what the assessments are. I want to know how much we have to spend, just to make sure. You've got it? You have all the numbers already? Okay, you want to come out and talk about it then? You wanna
I
give them to
have
us, or-
copies as you have requested
Okay,
for Doug and
perfect.
for the three of you.
Okay,
This is just the assessed value though, Madam
And the new
Chairman.
construction.
And new construction value.
okay.
Maybe we can get these numbers, think about it, and then
Yeah.
I'm not saying we need to discuss anything today, but.
I borrow a stapler?
Here.
So you got a stapler down there?
I got one.
Right here.
We could do, I could put on the agenda for 10:05,
Okay, let's do that.
budget workshop.
That's great.
Okay, and we could do an hour and 45 minutes.
Don't want me that long.
Okay,
Here's your copy of both.
thank you.
Somebody think, if we can put something else on, that's fine.
Okay.
I don't
Do
think
you
it'll
want to
take
do,
us 20 minutes really to talk this part through. I just want a chance to look at the numbers and. Clerk Miller, maybe we put on there for a presentation from you so that we all understand the ramifications of what these numbers mean.
Okay.
So how is this actually going to allow us to do this and
I'm gonna schedule it for an hour then.
thank you. Thank you.
The last page is your new construction.
Perfect.
That was good timing, huh?
Right. Now we will go into an executive session.
See ya.
I would move that we go into executive session prior to code 742061F. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Thompson, I.
Mop and I.
All alive.
All right, we're